And yeah, like, and how many of us, like before, like I've not just kind of noodled this whole like planetary shifts and how it all affects like our energy and stuff like that. But how many times have you judged yourself for like having these emotions, right? Like we've grown up in a society where we haven't really been taught what our emotions are, like what their purpose is and what they do, right? So like maybe you guys are wondering like what the heck is emotional intelligence? And first thing I can tell you what it is not. It's definitely not shoving down our emotions, which we can definitely tend to do, right? We live in a very masculine society where it's seen as weakness, right? How many of you guys can relate to that where you just like shove them off, right? Yeah, I definitely can too. And it's definitely not taking your emotions out on somebody else, right? It's about taking that full responsibility for our emotions and working through them ourselves, because really at the end of the day, it all comes down to us. It's incredible, a bonus to have this amazing community where we can open up about all of this. But at the end of the day, we're all on our own incredible mission and we are never given anything that we cannot handle. Okay. And then it's definitely not ignoring these emotions, right? It's about appreciating the whole spectrum of emotions that we have and then just learning from them, right? It's about, like I said, taking that radical responsibility for absolutely all of them, for leaning in and for understanding why they are there and like what they're actually guiding us to do. And so I want you guys to think of like yourself, like Jen said, like how the moon and the planets are all energy. We're all energetic beings. We're all very spiritual beings, right? And the cool thing with that is that the way I like to look at it is like we're basically like little like radio stations. Okay, like picture yourselves like a radio station, right? We've all got these frequencies, and at the rate that our frequency is at, those are the stations we're going to be able to take a look at, right? So if you're riding down here with your frequency, these are the opportunities you're going to be around. These are the people you're going to be around. This is what everything's going to be around. As we choose to step into these emotions and allow them to guide us to raise our frequency, we're going to start attracting in all of these cool new experiences, all of these cool new people, all of these incredible things that just start popping into your life, right? How many times have you guys like literally things are just going right and you're like, oh my gosh, like, man, this is so cool. Or the opposite. You're like, man, everything is just going wrong. What the heck, right? So I want you guys to think of yourself as just kind of like a radio station as we go through this, and just understanding that everything is all about frequency, and the emissions that you're giving off is what is going to come back to you. Okay, so whether it's the universe, God, the creator, source, whatever your belief system is, I'm going to talk the universe because it seems to be one that everybody can kind of vibe with. So the universe is always co-creating with us, right? So we put out signals to the universe, and then the universe is bringing us back opportunities. And the thing is, when we get given all of these opportunities, right, we need to be present in this moment to actually see these for what they are, right? To see them for opportunities, right? Like just like how we talked about on our Freedom Friday about triggers, right? Seeing a trigger so when something happens in our life or somebody says something to us and we get triggered, seeing that as an opportunity, because the universe put that opportunity in our life so that we could learn from it and so that we could grow from it and so that we can raise our frequency so that we can start attracting in the things that we want in our life, right? And so when it comes to the co-creation with the universe, it's continually receiving these different requests from us. And the craziest thing is that it all comes down to what's inside of our head. Our brains are so powerful, right? We don't even understand the full capacity of what our brains can even do. And I want you to think about your thoughts as those things that are sending out those frequencies. So are your thoughts on the majority, are they good, positive, empowering thoughts, or are they negative, limiting thoughts? Because that's going to really make a big difference in where your frequency is going. Okay. And then this communication is also filtered through our belief system. So what are all of these beliefs? Do you have more limiting beliefs that are like kind of filtering out all of these opportunities so that you're seeing them for something like, oh, this can't be for me. Oh, this is something for somebody else. So I don't believe in that, this, right? You're just more closed off. Or are you seeing things as an opportunity? Are you more open-minded? Are you seeing things and like curious about things, right? And then your creation, like whatever that is for you, is a result of how you act on those steps, right? So what thoughts are you putting out? And then what's your belief system? Are you open to taking a look at things and seeing things for that true opportunity? Or are you seeing it as being a victim? Are you seeing it as, oh my gosh, why me? Right? Or are you leaning in and you're like, okay, yo, like this just came up in my life. I'm being challenged right now. Like I am stepping up to the challenge and I am going to learn from this. And so when it comes to our thoughts, we have about 70,000 thoughts running through our head every single day. How crazy is that? Just let that sink in there for a second. And I want to point out that for the average person, about 90% of those thoughts are the exact same thoughts as we had yesterday. Right? It's crazy. Because if you think about it, like when it comes to our normal routine, humans are such habitual creatures, right? Well, you probably like you put your alarm clock the exact same spot. If it's your phone, you put your phone in the exact same spot every single night. So you wake up with that phone in the exact same spot. You go turn off your alarm the exact same way. You get out of bed the exact same way. You go brush your teeth, you do whatever. Your morning routine's typically the same thing. You go to work, you're with the same coworkers, you're in the same environment. You go to lunch, you go back to work, you come home from work, and then you usually do your same thing at night, and then you go to bed, and then you wake up and you do it over and over and over again, right? There usually isn't that much variety in our lives. And when it comes to growth, we have to accept that, because do you guys know the quote from Albert Einstein, the definition of insanity? I know you guys know it. Go ahead and put it in the chat box. What is the definition of insanity based on Albert Einstein? Does anybody know? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? Insanity. How many of us sometimes are a little bit insane without knowing it? A little insane in the membrane, right? So that's where this comes in. And we're so excited that you guys are here, because you guys are here in this group because you really want to grow. You want to level up. You want to change these thoughts so that you can start changing the frequency within you and start attracting new and different things into your life. And if you guys have a pen and paper there, I want you guys to write this down. So I want you to write down, so your thoughts. You guys all good? Give me a thumbs up if you guys are all good for me to go ahead. Yeah, perfect. We'll give everybody a couple seconds here. So I want to write down thoughts. So your thoughts determine your choices. Your choices determine your behaviors. Our behaviors determine our experiences. And our experiences determine our emotions. So you can see this little loop, right? And it all comes down. If we want to change the emotions within our body, we need to be able to change our thoughts. But you can see, like, when we have 70,000 thoughts going through our head each and every single day, how the heck are we supposed to catch which one of those thoughts is actually like causing these emotions? So just to share this with you guys, it takes about 6 seconds, only 6 seconds, for a thought to turn into an emotion within your body, right? So if you start saying negative thoughts in your head, you're going to start feeling these negative emotions, right? Our brains are just records of the past, which is crazy when you think about it, right? Like you could literally right now think of the worst time in your life, and within 6 seconds of you closing your eyes and thinking of that, you can be feeling the emotions that you felt on that exact specific day when that event happened. That's how powerful our brains are. But the same goes the opposite way, right? When you think about those most incredible days that you've had, the days where you're feeling grateful, you're feeling loved, you're part of something very special, you can think about that, you can visualize that, and within 6 seconds, you'll start feeling those emotions. And that's the power of this. So when it comes down to our emotional intelligence system, all of us have this GPS system. It's guiding us, right? It's telling us which way to turn. And it's different for every single person, right? Because I'm not here for the same mission as Jen. Jen's not here for the same mission as Jackie. Jackie's not here for the same mission as Jocelyn, right? We're all here for different missions. And those missions are literally embedded into our soul when we came to this planet, which is so cool, right? So really, like, learning how to tap into this GPS system is going to change the trajectory of your life, which is why we're so excited to share this with you. And so when it comes to your thoughts and your emotions, so you're probably wondering, like, how can we correlate these two when we're having so many thoughts digging through our heads? And sometimes our thoughts and like our brains are just so chaotic. How many guys can relate to that, where it's like you've just got way too much going on? You're worried about the kids, you're worried about the husband, you're worried about this, work, all of these things. So you've got all of these thoughts going on inside your head. But the cool thing is that we can usually start catching our emotions first. So I'm going to teach you guys something. It's called the 3-step process. And what the 3-step process does is it's an incredible way that you can start tuning in to the emotions within your body. And the cool thing is, once you start recognizing the emotions within your body, and Jen's going to talk a little bit more about this after too, you can start actually thinking, okay, I'm feeling these emotions in my body right now. What kind of thoughts do I have in my head right now? And start writing down these thoughts. Journaling is an incredible way to do this. I like having a junk journal. A junk journal is absolutely incredible. Whenever we're in those crappy, like I say crappy emotional states, just less desirable. They're all there for a reason, but we don't tend to like being sad. We don't tend to like being anxious or depressed, right? Nobody really tends to love to live in these spaces, but they are so, so important for us to be there. So when you notice yourself in those states, I want you to really start journaling, junk journaling, all of these thoughts that are in your head that are creating those emotions that are within your body. Okay. And so what the 3-step process does is it allows us to start making correlations. So it starts to help us recognize patterns, because humans, like we said, are habitual creatures. So once we can start recognizing our patterns, we can start changing our patterns, which are in turn going to change our thoughts, which are in turn going to change our emotions. And like we said, it's going to change our choices, our behaviors, and also our experiences, and raise our frequency so that we can start experiencing life the way that we truly want to experience it. And so there's an incredible app that you can download. There's 2 ways that you can do the 3-step process. So I'll explain it. So the first way is you can download the app called Mind Jogger. And I'll put that into the Mind Jogger. So it's like $1.30 or something for this app. And it's totally worth it because it's going to help you to train yourself to be able to catch your emotions. So I'll explain the app and then I'll explain the second way of doing it. So with the app, you set up the app so that it's going to remind you randomly 10 times throughout your day to just check in with yourself. So you can write it so that it says, how am I feeling in my body right now? So it's just going to randomly go off on your phone. It's going to say, how are you feeling in your body right now? You're going to check in with yourself. And how many times, guys, have you been in a mood, in one of those moods, and you've been in those moods for like hours, and you're like ruining your day, ruining everybody's day, because you're in this mood, but you haven't even really recognized that you're in that mood yet because you just aren't really like in tune with that emotional guidance system yet, right? Like it happens to all of us. And the cool thing with this is that you're going to start catching yourself. And you're going to start it's going to start recognizing and giving you that awareness of tapping into your emotions so that you can start recognizing these emotions before it's been like 6 hours or maybe a full day or maybe 2 days, a week, a month, who knows, right? So the quicker you can start recognizing these emotions within your body, the quicker you're going to start to be able to correlate them with your thoughts. And the quicker you're going to be able to change those thoughts so that you can now in turn have those better emotions, right? Because if we're having negative thoughts, 100% of the time, we're having negative emotions. When we're having positive thoughts, 100% of the time, we're having positive emotions, right? There's no ands, ifs, or buts about that. So that's where you get to be radically honest with yourself and saying like, am I more or less in the good zone of where I enjoy being, or am I in the less desirable, right? It's always going to be a process. There's always going to be the ebbs and flows, like Jen said, but it's just about having that awareness. So with the 3-step process, you're going to check in with yourself. So when that goes off, you're going to check in with your emotional body and you're just going to acknowledge it. So where are you feeling it in your body right now? And what does it feel like? Right? So the first step is acknowledging it. The second step is asking yourself, where do I feel it? So maybe you feel it in your chest. Maybe you feel it in your neck. Maybe you feel it in your arms, your stomach. Maybe you're feeling it in your legs. So where in your body are you actually feeling these emotions? And what does it feel like? So I'm going to drop a picture into this chat. I hope it will allow me to. If not, I'll post it in the group. But it's an incredible emotion wheel. It might not let me, but no, I can't. I'll put it in the group afterwards. But it's an incredible wheel that you can look at. Yeah, I can't share my screen. that will just help you to actually put a label to the different emotions that you're feeling. So once you're actually able to label what those emotions are, then you're able to, so the first one, Carolyn, was to recognize it. So just acknowledge it, right? And to not resent it, regardless whether it's a desirable thing or a desirable or less desirable emotion. It's just about acknowledging it. And then the second step of the 3-step process is, where is it in my body and what does it feel like? So maybe it feels like pressure. Maybe it feels like a tightness. And just describing to yourself what it feels like and becoming aware. And then the third step is thanking it, right? Thank you for releasing that. And then I love you, I love you, I love you, right? Because our bodies, the guidance system we have is always there to serve us. It's always wanting to move us forward in life. It's just, we just don't understand it yet, right? So being graceful with yourself and allowing yourself the space to be able to learn and grow and start accepting them for what they are and moving forward and being gentle on yourself and loving toward yourself is huge. So you can write that down. So step number 3 is say, thank you for releasing that. I love you, I love you, I love you. And I say for releasing that because our emotions come to the surface because they're ready to be released. They're ready to be processed. It's when we ignore them. It's when we get busy, we distract ourselves, that we shove them down. And then once we start doing that, it makes our frequency heavier, which is going to lower our frequency, right? When we allow our emotions to come up to the surface, see them for what they are, correlate them with our thoughts, and then change our thoughts to more empowering thoughts, it's going to start releasing the emotions. It's going to start allowing our frequency to raise so we can start attracting in more things. Can you see how this kind of all correlates together? And so the second way of doing that without the app is to simply just say, put like something that's on your wrist. If you have a bracelet, put it on the opposite wrist, or put your ring on a different finger. Do something that's going to trigger your brain to be like, yo, this is weird. Something that's just going to pull your attention to it every once in a while. And if you would say can't have your phone with you at work, this is an amazing way that you can do it. You can just say, put something on your other wrist. Every single time you notice it's on your other wrist, that's when you're going to do it. So that's when you're going to do your 3-step process. Okay, so let's go over that. So the very first step is acknowledging it. The second step is, where in my body do I feel it? And what does it feel like? So describe it. And then the third step is thanking it. So thank you for releasing this. I love you, I love you, I love you. Understanding that it's always bringing these things to the surface so that we can release them, learn from them, and move forward. And then don't judge them, right? Find these patterns. Start finding patterns of what it looks like in your day when you're feeling these emotions with your thoughts. And once you start recognizing these limiting thoughts that you're having, like I said, put them in your junk journal. And then what you can do from that aspect, once you know what these thoughts are that are in your junk journal, you can start like reframing them. Have you ever heard of like silver linings? Right? So reframing is such a powerful tool where you can take these negative things and start looking for the positive in them. Be an optimist, right? Like if you're telling yourself that like I'm like, what's a limiting belief? Somebody put something in the comments. A thought that you have on the regular basis that is not serving you right now. And it can be anything. There's no judgment in this group because we all have them. Carolyn, I will never get enrollment. I'm not good enough. Awesome. People are judging me for all of my social media. Yeah. And we talked about this too, about stepping into that new version of yourself. All of these limiting beliefs come up, right? And they're lowering our frequency. So when we can learn to shift these into empowering beliefs, right? So we can start taking these. So for example, I will never get an enrollment. You can change that into, I'm so excited to work toward getting in my first enrollment. Or I'm so excited to be able to work toward finding a friend that's excited to try this, right? Or I'm not good enough. I am so excited and grateful that I'm working continuously every single day to really like see that I'm amazing. Or maybe just simply like, I am so amazing, right? You can start shifting these thoughts, or people are judging me for all my social media. And you can say like, I am so excited to be putting myself out there in this new, incredible way that I'm growing, because I'm going to now be attracting in people who want to learn and grow with me. And I'm also going to be inspiring other people to step into this version of themselves too. Like, how much better does that feel? Right? It feels so good. So when you can start recognizing these limiting beliefs you're having, switching them into these positive beliefs, and then start reaffirming these beliefs, right? Because just like our patterns that we've picked up that aren't serving us, we now need to take these and turn them into these new empowering beliefs that are actually going to serve us, and repeating them so you can read them over every single morning. So this is kind of how you can use this emotional guidance system within you to be able to start steering you in the direction that your soul wants to go. Does anybody have any questions about any of this? No? Amazing.
So good, Laura. So good. I'm sorry if there's background noise, but I'm going to piggyback on that with Laura. And I'd love for you to all picture a child. Picture a child who's crying. And I would love for you to think for a moment what you would do in that circumstance. Would you scold the child for crying? Would you ask the child what's bothering him or her? Would you comfort that child? What would you do? And the reason I ask that is because all of the emotions that we experience as human beings, as adults, over the years, we learn to start labeling them as good or bad. And so the reason I bring up a crying child is, how many times do we feel tears in our eyes and we automatically tell ourselves this is the wrong emotion to have, or that it's weak to cry in front of people, right? And when we do that, we're actually telling ourselves that we are wrong for feeling something. And so I invite you to start thinking about the emotions as you go through this 3-step process, and you start learning to identify these different emotions that are happening. Start looking at your own inner world with curiosity like a child, and start giving to yourself the same way you would give to a child. Because the emotions that we feel a lot of the time are becoming these like signals, these reminders, these little taps on the shoulders, because we are so busy all the time and there's so much distraction and noise that once in a while we may need an exterior reminder to check in. If we can recognize what anger is, then when we experience anger and are able to ask ourselves what it is that is triggering this anger, because we know that other people cannot make us feel a certain way, it all starts within ourselves. And so how powerful is it that when we can recognize an emotion, take a moment to either go, I'm going to look into this right now because I have a few minutes, or I'm going to write this down and I'm going to look at this later on. And then identify what the trigger was and where it is inside of us that we need to look a little bit deeper and do a bit more healing. And the most powerful thing that we can do is to stop labeling our feelings and our emotions as good or bad. For us to start giving every emotion and experience the time of day to surface, because in that is an innate power and an innate wisdom that no one or nothing can give you. A lot of the times when we're feeling nervous, maybe you're doing something out of the ordinary, you feel nervous and you're sweating, we automatically start to freeze up, right? We automatically start thinking, oh no, this is going to go really bad. What if I do this? What if I go wrong? You know? But what if when we started feeling nervous, we were able to recognize, I'm nervous right now and I'm about to do something so exciting, something new. And this is something I've been waiting for. And I'm going to use all of this energy that's bubbling inside of me right now. And I'm going to use it as fuel. I'm going to use it as this like force so that whatever it is that I'm doing is going to be amazing. That is the true power that we have when we are in tune with what it is that's going on in ourselves. How many of you have been in a situation where you got a gut feeling that something wasn't quite right? You got a gut feeling that someone was lying to you. You felt it through your body. You felt it maybe in your chest, like Laura said, in your neck, in your shoulders, in your gut. You just knew, and you disregarded it, right? You allowed ego to come in, and you told yourself, I don't feel that way. And you went forward with it anyways. What happens? Most of the time, that feeling was right. And so when we can start becoming best friends with our own sensations, when we can start becoming the number one fan of our emotions, when we can stop labeling the things that we feel as good or bad and just realize that everything is knowledge, then we start really being able to navigate the storms. We start being able to navigate the sunshine. We start being able to navigate everything in our lives with this deep inner wisdom. And it becomes so deep rooted in our everyday that sometimes you can just stop and ask yourself, how does this make me feel? And your body will tell you. Because the number one thing that we need to do is to get out of our heads and into our hearts. And if we can get out of our heads and we can get into our hearts and we can go through life with this feeling of flow, and we can start fueling the things that we're doing with love, and we can start understanding the different emotions that come up, what happens? We take a lot of the pressure off of ourselves, a lot of this like label of perfection, because we know that we can trust ourselves. And when we trust ourselves, we make much better decisions. And when we make better decisions, then it reinforces the fact that we trusted our emotions for the better. And so it's all cyclical. And every time something comes up for myself, my biggest thing was anger. I never wanted to show anger. I thought it was wrong to show anger. I was told as a little girl that showing anger was not feminine. It was not the right thing to do. And so every time I felt anger, I would suppress it. And what would happen? One day I felt like this like steam engine chimney that was about to explode. And I remember at the time, a girl I worked with at the Muay Thai gym, she said, Jen, what is going on? You're like, the color in your face is different. You don't seem right. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And we dug into it, and it was anger. And I didn't even know how to express anger. And she told me, she goes, take this ball and throw it at the wall as hard as you can. And I'm like, I can't do that, you know? She's like, do it. Take this ball and throw it at the wall as hard as you can. And I tell you that after I threw that ball 3 times, I was throwing it so hard, my shoulder hurt for days after. And that's when I realized, if we allow these emotions and feelings to be stored within our body, what do we think happens? Stress is the number one cause of toxins. And so if we invoke stress on ourselves, what are we doing? And so that was a really powerful analogy for me to realize what I was doing to myself. And every time we disregard, it just means that we're telling ourselves that we are wrong. And so I invite you to be in the right for yourself. And I invite you to lean into whatever it is you're feeling, even if it's really uncomfortable, because it too shall pass and nothing is permanent. Yet the one thing that we all have the capacity to do is to live a life where we get to trust in our own heart and our own ability. And so I hope that helps. And I'm so excited to hear about how your 3-step processes are going. And I'm going to do it again too, because you know what happens as we evolve, our emotions and the different feelings that we feel start to change. And so I'm really excited to go on this journey with all of you.
That's amazing. Such a good story, Jen. I can relate to that too, about the whole anger. And I want you guys to like picture that whole like frequency thing, right? Like as we suppress, what are we doing to our frequency? Right? And then we're attracting in things at this frequency, right? When you can learn to be vulnerable and share, right? Like if Jen wasn't open to having that conversation when she was in that Muay Thai gym, she never would have recognized that it was anger that was actually causing this. And she never would have got the solution of throwing that into the wall. And it was funny because I had a very similar thing like that, literally like a month or so ago, and it was suppressed anger too. And I got asked to scream in a pillow, and I was like, I can't scream in a pillow. What do you mean? I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I don't want to scream in a pillow. And we all ended up going out into our cars and screaming in pillows because like, but it was so like awesome to just get that out. But it's like we judge ourselves so much, and when we can really just learn to be vulnerable and share and like use this group. This is our whole vision for this, right? Like, as we continue to allow these emotions to come to the surface and we start sharing our stories, like, feel open to put a post into this group and share a situation that happened to you, how you worked through it, like what worked for you, what didn't work for you. Then that's how we're all going to learn. That's how we're all going to grow. And we get to do this together. And this community is going to be something that is going to be there and support you through like all of the ups and downs. We're never going to tell you what to do, but we're just going to guide you and give you that reassurance, because at the end of the day, like, Jen and I don't know what's best for you. We're here to provide you with tools so that you can start learning from yourself. And like Jen was sharing too, when we can really start having that full trust in ourselves. How many of you guys are like super terrified of being alone? Right? I know I am. It's like, man, it's like one of my worst fears. But when you can really be super confident in who you are as a person, when you start recognizing your emotions, you're not judging them, and you start reinforcing that you make sound decisions, that you're able to tap into those gut feelings, that you suddenly won't feel alone because you're so confident in who you are as a person, as a human being, that it's going to completely change everything for you. And like I said, this community is at that point just a bonus, right? Because you are completely whole within yourself already as you are. Remember that. You're already completely whole as you are. It's just as we learn and we grow, we're just going to start like feeling more confident about who we are. We're going to start attracting in new, fun, exciting things. And it's going to start leveling up our life. But everything from that's happened from your past up until this moment has been completely perfect. To have you guys sitting here with us tonight on this Zoom in our group here for our weekly Rise Up huddle. And just know that you're exactly where you're meant to be. So for your little thing that we're going to send you home with this week to kind of work on this is obviously going to be your 3-step process, so that you can start